All right, so we're gonna get started here. So hello everybody. Tanse kamama knitsigasan, Kensbrand nitsigasan. Pigitoahkan skahigan uchinia, Muskochivaskahigan uchinia. Hello everybody, my name is Mackenzie Brown and I'm the project manager with Indigenous Tourism Alberta. And I make Edmonton my home now. So I'd like to just acknowledge that I'm on Treaty 6 territory, which is home to many Indigenous nations, including the homeland of the Métis. And we also acknowledge that we are on traditional territories in Alberta, Treaty 6, 7, 4, and 10. And then we also have 8 Métis settlements and 6 Métis regions for the Métis Nation of Alberta. So we just like to acknowledge that before we get started. So the webinar that I have today for you guys is tips for artisans. This is a topic that I'm very passionate about. For some of you who've been watching the webinars, you may or may not know that I'm an artisan myself, as well as my mom. I grew up in a household that was full of creativity and artisan work. So I've attended many artisan craft shows. I have my own artisan business. And so this is a topic that I'm really passionate about when we talk about Indigenous tourism and artisans playing in that space. So without further ado, as you know already, my name is Mackenzie Brown and I'm the project manager with Indigenous Tourism Alberta. We have a ton of other webinars, so if you end up liking this webinar today, feel free to check out our other webinars at our YouTube or on our website at www.indigenoustourisamalberta.ca. So today we have a couple different objectives. So I'm going to go through some artisan should-dos. I'm even going to chat about receipts, wholesale pricing, having an online presence, website building, and then some tips for artisans as well. So if you've watched our past webinars, you'll know that there is a huge demand for Indigenous tourism. We see that there's one in 3 domestic travelers want to experience an authentic Indigenous tourism experience, and sorry, that's 1 in 3 international, 1 in 4 domestic travelers. And a huge part of tourism is souvenir purchasing. People want to bring back a memorable item from their trip, and this is really when Indigenous artisans come into play. We see a lot of shifting towards having authentic Indigenous work for selling in tourism shops. But in order to get there, there are a couple different things that we have to do as artisans. So that's why I'm going to chat about wholesale pricing. But then also, how do you just make sure that your work is out there? What does it mean to be an artisan, and what does it mean to sell to travelers, sell to customers? And so we'll go through all of that. So if you are an artisan just starting out, this is a webinar for you. If you're an artisan expanding your business, this is a webinar for you. And if you are an artisan already making it in the tourism space or retail space, this is also a webinar for you. So let's get started. So my first tip for our artisans is you want to really plan things out. When you're looking at starting your business, let's say you make beautiful soaps, you do want to really try to plan that out. So planning out does involve, you can create a business plan. I know a lot of artisans that haven't created a business plan, and they usually end up going back later to create a business plan. I actually just was speaking with an artisan yesterday that I met when her and I were tabling at the Butterdome Christmas market. So for those of you who don't know the Butterdome, it's like Canada's largest Christmas market. And so I was there last year, got a table, same with another artisan, and we were chatting. And even though she was at that caliber during COVID, she went and she created a business plan because she realized that that was something really important that she needed to do. So I just got a note that said that my sound is quite muffled. So 1 second. If I do this, can you hear me a little bit better? Thank you so much, Gina, for letting me know about that. So just let me know if you can hear me okay. I've been having some troubles with my my sound system lately. Oh, I'm just gonna check this chat. Okay, it's a little bit better. Okay, we'll continue on with this, and then let me know if anything else happens, and I'll try to see what I can do about it. So anyways, creating whether it's a formal business plan or just a plan in general, what do you want your art to do? Where do you want to showcase your art? Do you want to eventually do some markets? What are those 1 year plans? What are those 5-year plans? What are those 10-year plans? I've been told, and this is the best piece of advice that I can give an artisan, is if you treat your work as a hobby, it will always be a hobby. So even if it is something that you do on the side, treat it like it's professional, because it is. And that's something that once you make that change in your mind, it will elevate your work. So when you're looking at creating a business plan, something else that's really important is market research. We do market research, and that just means you take a look at the market, you take a look at within your area, who else is selling these kind of goods and services, what's working for them, what's not working for them, how are you different? You always want to find a way that you are different, what makes you special. And then finally, that visioning, as I had spoken about, creating those goals for yourself. Maybe your goal at the end of your first couple months is that you table at a craft show, or maybe in 5 years you want to have your artwork in a couple of retail stores. What are those visions? And once you put that down on paper, it stops becoming a hobby. It starts becoming something that's actually going to be put into place. In tourism, you know that we talk a lot about knowing your target market. What is your target market? What is your target market? What is your target market? And that's the exact same when you're looking at being an artisan as well. You want to know how big is your market? Who's buying your art? Who's selling your art? Who's your competition, right? That market research. What do you want your audience to be? That's different as well. Who do you want to sell to? Who do you want your target market to be? Where does your work fit in the broader art marketplace as well? Are you a small handicrafts worker, or can you mass produce your work? We see artisans even in Edmonton. We have a couple artisans that table at the Royal Bison, which is a very small kind of hip artist market, or we have artisans that table every week at the farmers market. What will really work for you? What makes the most sense for even your lifestyle? So for me, I work full time within ITA, correct? So what works for me is that every couple weeks I'll be at the farmers market. That's really where my art fits into the broader art marketplace. I have a chat, just checking. Is there a number that somebody can call into for an audio link only? Unfortunately, I don't believe that there is a way for us to do just audio. I think you do have to watch. So do you know what I will do is afterwards, this webinar will be recorded, and so I will send you a link to the YouTube afterwards, if that's all good. Let me check. Okay, awesome. And then you want to look at, again, what type of spaces do you want your work to be in? Do you want to be the person selling your work, or do you eventually want to be in a retail store? All of these different things are really important in consideration. Another really good tip is make it legal. Many artists choose to classify their business as a sole proprietorship. If this is important if you want to get into retail stores, that you have to make it a legal business. It's pretty easy to set up your own business. It also is good because then you keep money separate, right? You purchase all of your materials from your business account, you sell through your business account, everything is separate. And so that is a tip that I'll give people, is that if you want to go this route, make it legal. For myself, even as a part-time artist, I do have my legal kamamak business. And that has been really easy for me to keep things separate, to keep things legal. I'm able to send invoices to people. I'm able to issue professional receipts. So if you need help setting up a business, there are amazing, amazing services at BusinessLink with their Indigenous services, or Futurepreneur as well, where you can reach out to us and we can help you with that too. But that is another tip. Another tip that I have for you is keeping track of your finances. This can be tricky, and I understand as an artist, finances are always tough for me, but it's really important that you keep track of all of your finances. So if you have a legal business, what that means is you can keep track of your business costs, everything you've purchased, including the space that you work in, mailing parcels, materials purchased, and you don't have to pay taxes on that because that is considered a business expense. So you keep track of all of those. Again, this is if you have a legal business. You also want to make sure that you're keeping track of what you've sold, because then what's really important is at the end of the year, you can take a look at, okay, what were the items that sold the best? What are the items that maybe didn't sell the best? And you can reweigh what you're selling. This is something that I've done. You know, I've looked at, okay, this print has sold much better than this print has. So in the next year, I'm going to purchase more of this style of my prints as opposed to this. So keep track of everything that you sell, everything that you're buying. If you have a legal business, make sure that you are taxing as well, and that is something that you're doing. But it's just good practice to keep track of all of your finances. So I suggest get a book, get a nice little book. We have these nice little ITA books. Oh, you can't see them. There we go. And just keep a month to month what you're spending, what you're making money on. And then it's also good to reevaluate, are you actually making money? Because if you're not, then it's good to reevaluate what you might need to improve on. Receipts are really important. A lot of times, especially if you're starting to sell to conferences per se, or businesses, and they need the receipt to claim that money back. Receipts are really important. So they can be very easy. You can just purchase receipt books now. And so you want to make sure that on a receipt, you have that itemized receipt. So you want to show what's purchased. If you're charging tax, if you're a legal business, you have to charge tax, the taxes that have been applied, and then the final costs. So here's a really good example of just a simple sales receipt that you can have. You see it's the salesperson, customer, address, city, those kind of things, and then the quantity, the description, the price, and then the total. And then you can say what they purchased it on. Receipts are something that when an artisan is first starting up, they can be a little bit tough to figure out. But this is a really simple way of doing receipt. And when you do a receipt, it also helps prove the legitimacy of your business as well. And then it helps you keep track of those finances, because most times when you write a receipt, you can get that double-sided paper that then you get to keep your receipt. So then it's a great way of keeping track of your finances. Ooh. Again, if your business is a registered business, make sure that you're collecting tax on your items depending on where you're located. And again, it just means that you're collecting the tax from the purchaser and then you're sending it off to the CRA. And you can choose to file your taxes at quarterly, annually, monthly, all of those different things. So make sure that if you are registered, that you are charging tax on your work. All right, we're going to get into a little bit of pricing. So this is a question that comes up to me a lot. is how much should I price my work? You know, we see people underpricing their work, we see people overpricing their work, and it can be a tough balance. So these are some tips for you. So I really want you to take into account your time and your expertise. This can be tricky because as an artisan, sometimes you aren't taking sometimes you if you paid yourself per hour, um sometimes it wouldn't work out. So but you do have to take into account your time and then your prior expertise. Do you have expertise that other people don't? If you do, then you can be charging more money. You want to look at, sometimes people will overcharge and then see if sales are happening. I used to undercharge my work and then it was flying off the shelves and I realized, okay, I have to up my prices a little bit then. And then eventually you find a perfect mix. So play around with the way that you charge your work, if it's up or if it's down. A really good tip is look at what other people are pricing their work as and compare it to yours. You know, I have a friend who does crocheting and she was taking a look on Etsy and she was saying, okay, my stitches are a little bit more complicated than this person, so I think I'm going to charge more, but then my designs aren't as elaborate as this person, so I'll charge less than that. And she found a perfect price range there. You can also look into charging per square inch of beading, charging per square inch of painting, etc., etc. For me, I paint and I bead. You know, if I'm beading a pair of moccasins as opposed to just embroidering or what have you, I'll charge an extra $50 to $100 depending on the complexity of the design. So there are different ways that you can take into account your pricing. A great little kind of like visual for you guys is take into account again your labor, your components, even your tools. You know, if it costs $100 for you to get a new pair, like new needles for the year, then you can take that money and you can add that into the costs as well. Take into account any marketing costs and then any overhead costs too. So that kind of all plays into your cost price. All right. So as an artisan, there are a couple different ways that you can sell your work. You can sell at markets, and that's a really good place for a lot of artisans to start. It's a good way to see how people interact with your work. It's a good way to see what work sells more, what work doesn't sell as much. And it's a great place and time for you to stand there as the artist and advocate for your work. Um, Markets can be very intimidating. I remember when I went to my first market, I was very nervous and and but then eventually you start having a lot of fun with it. So if you're in either Edmonton or Calgary, Edmonton has the Indigenous Artist Market Collective, and so I suggest becoming a member of theirs. And then you can actually table once a week at the farmers market, which is a great option and great to get into the market world. If you're in Calgary, there's the Authentically Indigenous Artist Market that I also suggest you becoming a member of. If you're in smaller towns, check out your local farmers market. Something to be aware of is markets do cost money. They do cost money per table, and depending on the size of the market, the popularity of the market, you will have a larger price or a smaller price to pay. So some quick tips that if you're tabling at markets, you really want to make sure that your items are labeled. Particularly Canadian shoppers don't like asking the price of something. They would rather walk by and glance and see the price clearly marked and then come and pick out for you. Sometimes shoppers don't want to engage right off the bat. So having clearly priced labels is a good do. Don't overcrowd your table. That's another tip that I have for you. Make sure that everything is nice and that you can see everything. I also suggest playing with levels, you know, bringing a couple fancy looking boxes, and you can place items on there. You can make different levels. When you make different levels, it entices customers to come in as well. And then another tip of advice that I have for you is customers, as much as they will come into retail stores, they don't necessarily like to come right into a person's booth. Sometimes it makes them feel uncomfortable. So if you can set your table to the front, you be behind your table. That also works right now with COVID too, but being behind your table and having the items first, it's more enticing for a customer to come in. They are drawn by your elaborate, beautiful creations, and then they will chat with you afterwards. And then just another tip too is selling your work, like selling yourself as an artist. And this is something that can be tough for Indigenous artisans, because one of our sacred teachings is humility, and but it's part of the business world as well, is you can still be humble and still advertise your work, still package it beautifully, still entice people to come back. So those are some tips that I have for people when you're working at a market. If you want to sell to an organization, and selling to businesses, we're going to get into wholesale pricing in the next slide. But another thing that I wanted to mention to all of the artisans that are watching today is there is something called the Office of Small and Medium Enterprises, and it's a really good option for artisans as well for selling to procurement to the federal government. So you can go to buyandsell.dc.ca, and the federal government is having a huge push right now to purchase goods and services from Indigenous makers. So check that out too, because that might be a really good option for you as well. So we're going to get into selling to businesses. All right, so you're interested in selling to a retail business. How do you go about doing it? The first thing that you need to know is that you need to have wholesale pricing. What is wholesale pricing? Wholesale pricing is basically when you take the price of what you would typically sell a product at and you mark it down by 30 to 50%. You might be saying, what? That is a lot of money to mark down. The reason why you do that is because retail spaces typically will sell more of your product than you can with traditional marketing efforts, depending on the business, of course. And then two, they also need to make money as well. So it's an investment from the business's side of things to the retailer side, and it's an investment for you too. So it's more of a partnership as opposed to a, hey, you sell my stuff and I take the money from it. It's, okay, we will sell your work, but we also are a business and we need to be making money too. So how do you do wholesale pricing? So again, this is a nice visual for people to look at wholesale pricing. So again, let's say you have a book that you want to sell, and typically you would sell it for $24, right? So what would happen is then you would sell your book to a retailer at 50%. So you sell it to them for about $11, and then they will sell the book for $15. So they're making $5, you're making $10. Again, depending on your overhead costs. But this is a little bit of a visual for wholesale pricing. Again, this is another visual. So let's say it costs you $16 to make a dress, and then you sell it to a wholesaler for $40. So then you're making, oh math. So then you're making $24 off of your dress, and then the wholesaler, the retailer, they're selling that dress for $90. So this is an example of this. In this case, they are making a little bit more, so you might want to evaluate how you're doing your costing. But basically, the wholesale price means that cost of sales, and then plus a markup percentage, or the retail price is usually the wholesale price plus that markup percentage. So you decide what you want your markup percentage to be. For example, I sell my cards. I have art cards, and I sell them for $5 typically. For a business, I'll usually sell them to them for $4. So then they're making $1 off of my cards because my dollars cost $2 to make. So then I'm making like $2 as well off of my cards. Something like that. I've had some businesses where we negotiate, and they want to sell my cards actually for $8, and so then I'll sell them for a little bit more money, or people want to sell them for $6.25, and so I'll sell them for less. If they buy 100 cards, I'll knock $20 off of their order. There are ways that when you're selling to a retailer, negotiate because it is a partnership. It's not just a transaction. Fantastic. Perfect. So I know that was a lot of information on pricing, on payment. Again, I wanted to let you guys know that this webinar will be up on our YouTube afterwards, and so you can go back to it, and I suggest going back to it. I've been working in the artisan field since I was about 16, and so I've had a couple years under my arm with working on it, and it hasn't always come quickly to me either. So make sure to just review your pricing. Numbers can be really tricky and really tough. But we're going to shift a little bit, and we're going to go into online presence. Because if you are, let's say especially with COVID right now, there's not a lot of markets that are going on. Let's say you're not quite there yet to be in retail, and you're not quite there to do like markets, to sell your work in those kind of like brick and mortar shops, but you want to have a really good online presence. I'm going to go through a couple artists who their work isn't in shops, and they make all of their business just through online sales. So if you don't have a storefront, the internet is your business home. Something that's really exciting is that the internet is huge. So many people can access your work. Something that's terrifying about the internet is huge. And so sometimes it can be tough to navigate. Again, you want to think about your target market, and then how do you reach that target market, but now through the internet. So just new things to think about. Some of my favorite local artisans within the Alberta region include J Shine Designs and then White Otter Design Co. If you look at the amount of followers that they have, J Shine has 8.2 thousand followers, and then White Otter Designs, she has 24,000 followers on her Instagram. These two lovely ladies sell solely through their Instagram, and they are full-time artists. And I think that is something that's incredibly inspiring, and especially to see two Albertan artists at this level is really exciting. So they obviously have really made Instagram the home for their online business. And you can purchase through their Instagram. They'll have sales through their Instagram, all of these different things. And then you see Facebook's another really great way as well. So a couple of our members, which include Fine Indian Products, Warrior Ribbon, White Eagle Native Crafts, and then Hawk Lace Jewelry, you can see that they sell through their Facebook, or that they use their Facebook to entice people to look at how they're making things, have that engagement on social media, and then there might be a call to action to like visit our website or visit our Instagram, or our next sale is coming up November 30th. So make sure to purchase on our next sale. So whether you're using Instagram or Facebook to first get that starting up, they're both really good mediums of showcasing your work, trying to grow your followers, all of these different things. There are some really amazing groups on Facebook. One of my favorites is the Social Distance Powwow, there's like the Beaters Network of Canada. There are just so many like beading, Indigenous artisans, all of these different Facebook groups. And actually, somebody that I know, a friend, she was just starting out her business, and she makes these beautiful chokers with these long pieces of hide on them. And she decided to post them one day on the Social Distance Powwow, and she sold out. And now every time she makes new chokers, they sell out instantly, because she gained this huge following from posting her work onto these new Facebook groups. So this is another thing that you can start thinking about. Should I create a Facebook group? Should I create an Instagram page for my art? What should I do? All right. So you've started thinking about your online presence. Now let's say you want to actually sell online as an artisan. So if you want to sell online, there's a couple different ways that you can do it, and I'll go through that. But I'm going to go through, well, if you have an Instagram, you can actually have a business Instagram where people can purchase through your Instagram. I found that many artisans sell out of their work really quickly because it is handmade and it's not mass produced. And so they don't have a business Instagram. They'll usually just have a normal Instagram, and then it's easier to regulate custom orders, sales through your regular Instagram. Let's say you're thinking, nope, I want to create a website, and I want to have a website that has online purchasing on it. So we're going to go through some of that information for you. So the first thing that you want to make sure that you have if you're going to create a website for your artisan works is you want to have a strong landing page. The landing page, that's the first page that pops up when your visitor sees it, and it has to be appealing enough to keep visitors on your site looking around. Use a great picture, write engaging text on it. Check out some other Indigenous artisan web pages to get some inspiration, but we find that most often people will actually take 30 seconds to decide whether or not they're going to leave your website. So you want to make sure that you have, right first thing, a very strong landing page. If you want to really dive deep into website building, we do have a webinar on creating a good tourism website, and so you can find that on our YouTube. But just some tips and tricks about like creating a good website is there are many website templates available online, and they're very easy to create a website. Remember to keep your website up to date, especially as an artisan. This is something that is top priority for you, because you might sell out of your work and that work might still be placed on your website, and people will be confused because but it's not available, but it's on your website. So make sure that your website's always up to date. If you're new to the online business, it is helpful to hire a web designer. I had hired a web designer. I just hired one of my friends to create my artisan web page because it was, at the time, it was something completely foreign to me. And so I needed the help for that. And then again, you want to be able to provide vital information. So what is your business? What do you provide? Where can they buy? You want to make sure that all of that is right then and there, that it's easy for them to look at your item, click purchase. 30 seconds or less, providing that vital information. So if you're not quite ready for a full-on web page, a great online place to start selling that I suggest is Etsy. a lot of Indigenous artisans use Etsy and have great success on Etsy. So I actually really like, there's a video actually from the Inuit Business Women of Canada, and they have a video on setting up an Etsy shop, or justbusiness.com also has a great video on setting up an Etsy. So I do suggest starting up an Etsy if it's a good introduction into online sales. Another really good website is Shopify. So if you want to set up a full robust, you sell online, Shopify is a really good way to go. You can get a very basic plan for about $29 a month. And again, they have themes that are customizable, and then they also do a lot to market you out too, so that then not all the marketing is on your plate. Shopify, because it is such a large user group, they can help market things out too. And then I like to put down Square, because a lot of Indigenous artisans will use Square for credit card sales. And so Square also has a free online store that you can get if you have a Square account. So I also really suggest setting up a Square too, if that's the way that you want to go as well. So I like to put Moonstone Creation, because they have a really great online sales webpage. It's a page where you come, and the first thing that you see is they have this beautiful area in the middle that slides through different products that are available to entice people. There's a view now book button, so that's called a call to action, where they'll say, oh, these beautiful men's moccasins, oh, I want to view them. They have, where you can find their art, their bags, their beaded items, their business card holders, classes, clothing, fabric mats, etc., etc. So you can click on all of these different things, and then on all of the different items as well, it tells you how you can purchase, if you have to call the store, or if you can just purchase it straight up online. So again, if you want to start up a website for your artisan business, really take a look at other websites that are out there that other Indigenous artisans have, to really get an idea. Another just good tip for website building is make sure that it's mobile compatible. Most people are looking to book and purchase on their phone. So most websites do this now, but just always make sure that that you have a responsive mobile compatible web design. And then integrate your social media. Again, if you started up a Facebook page, make sure that it links to your website. If you have an Instagram page, make sure that it links to your website. Put things together. Let's say you started doing some YouTube marketing, and so you're doing classes online through YouTube. Make sure that it links back to your website so that people can purchase your beautiful work. Make sure that you have that presence again through social media. And another tip as well, you don't have to use every single social media platform. Do it really well. That's a huge piece of advice. For me, I just have Instagram. I'm just focused on my Instagram. I don't have a Facebook page. For Warrior Women, we have a Facebook page, but we don't have an Instagram, because we have had better success on our Facebook page. So you can just choose one. And then also make sure that when you're creating your website that you're using keywords that visitors might Google. So, artisan, Indigenous, artwork, authentic. Make sure that those are in your website somewhere, so that when somebody Googles authentic Indigenous artisan work, your website will pop up. So I just have a couple more final tips to give to you guys today before we'll go into a little bit of a question and answer period. So feel free that you can use the chat box, or you can use the Q&A to ask any questions. But some final tips too is nurture your customers. I've seen in the past that for me, I have so many repeat customers. I have friends who purchase my work. I have customers who purchase my work, and then when I come out with new designs, they purchase those new designs. It's quite often that somebody will find me at the farmers market and say, "Oh my goodness, you have new cards. Oh, I want to purchase these ones too because I love the cards so much that I purchased last time." So really nurture your customers. If you want to start an email chain and gather your customers' emails and just say hi to them every once in a while. If you want to, when you're packaging up your work, to leave them a nice thank you card. This it makes a difference to really nurture your customers, to treat people with kindness, because people will come back. People want to support you and they will come back. And then even for new customers, if you have somebody who you've never met before who purchases from you, make sure to give them a business card. Make sure to tell them where your next market is at. Make sure to thank them so much for taking interest in your work. A lot of times marketing sometimes is just can just be chatting with people and being kind to them afterwards. And then I wanted to just throw this up in there as well, that this is from the Indigenous Tourism Association of Canada. And so if you are looking to become export ready, it's called export ready, so where you're able to sell to international travelers, something that you do need to have if you're looking at having a retail store is refreshments and washrooms available in order to make a stop, offering group discount coupons, gift and or commissions available to the drivers or the escorts, and then the ability to issue separate bills for individual visitors. So again, we chatted quite a bit about these different things. So a nice little recap that we went through today is we went through a lot. We went through a lot today, but we went through, creating a business plan. If you want to start an Indigenous artisan business, make it legit, make it legal. Look at your business plan, look at your goals that you want to accomplish, start doing some market research, start looking at who your target markets are. We looked at keeping track of your finances so that then every year you can reevaluate, okay, am I making money? What's selling the best? What's not selling the best? Where can I allocate my time and my efforts to? We talked about receipts, we talked about taxes, we talked about wholesale pricing if you want to sell to retailers as well. And then we talked about the importance of having an online presence, especially during this time with COVID. And then also we talked about selling online. So that's a little bit of a recap. Again, I wanted to say that this will be up on our YouTube so that you can check it all out again. And I saw that I did have a question, and if you want the slides, please just send me your email and I can send you over a copy of these slides as well afterwards. So now is the time for any questions. So if there are any questions that you might have, feel free to type it into the question and answer box, or you can type it into the chat as well. And I'm happy to answer any kinds of questions. Again, we went through a little bit of website building. If you're interested in spending more time on website building, head over to our YouTube, and we have a webinar on that as well. And we have a ton of webinars right now on our YouTube channel. So I see I got chat. Let me see. Can you provide the link for the videos you mentioned on setting up an Etsy? Absolutely, I can. I'll link those in the bottom of the YouTube video once I put these up. And then Gina, for you in particular, I can send those links to you as well as a copy of the slides too. So I'll do that. Yeah, so just make sure that if you have any questions, you can feel free to reach out to us at info@indigenoustourisamalberta.ca. Make sure that if you would like these slides that you just send me your email. You can send it to the info@indigenoustourismalberta.ca. And I would just like to thank everybody. Oh, also you maybe mentioned a book for the entrepreneur. Okay, Gina, I'll connect with you after the webinar on this. But I did want to mention that if people are interested, we do have a upcoming workshop November 30th and December 1st. And it's called my thing, you can't see it. Anyways, you can't really see, there we go. It's called the Indigenous Tourism Startup Workshop. And so we send you one of these books. If you can't make November 30th and December 1st, we will have another workshop coming up in January. So we'll make sure that you're a part of that one as well. So thank you guys all so much for coming and attending. And if you have any further questions, feel free to email me at info@indigenoustourismalberta.ca. Thank you so much, everybody, and I hope that you have a great day.